Yeah, what's good, Joe? It's your man, the Bigga P, and I'm here with my thoughts from today's boxing cards from both HBO and Showtime. First of all, before I go into my thoughts on it, I like to say that it's been it's great to actually have a fight night again, and I was looking forward to pretty much fights on both cards, all week, and it's just great to actually be able to watch boxing on a Saturday again. um, so now I'll get to guys. First, I'll start with the HBO card because that's what I watched first. I actually watched it live. It was happening off a stream. Um, I watched the main card. I didn't watch like the undercard ones. I'll probably get to that probably tomorrow. But the first fight I think was Gradovich versus Muniz. Now Gradovich, he got my attention when he beat Dib Friday Night Fights to lift that belt off him. And I thought, I thought, he didn't. Other than yes, he got worked because he was like a 15 fight novice. But in this fight, he was just incredible. He was absolutely incredible. The combination punching over and over again. Like he didn't have a lot of power, but he just absolutely hit him over and over. Like it was just a combination from 1 to 12. Like he tried, but he just got outworked and just beaten up. Like he at the end of the fight, he had the hematomas over his eyes. It was just disturbing. It was a very solid beating. And Gradovich, the Mexican Russian. That name is still funny to me. And he won. He still kept his title on an undefeated record. And I was like Zagredovic, he will be a problem. Um, that type of activity. A lot of fighters. Anyone who has that type of pressure and that type of combinations will give anyone a hard night. Second fight I think was Estrada versus Melindo. Now I had never seen Melindo before, but of course I saw Estrada because when he lifted those titles off Brian Valoria. And it was, I actually thought this fight would have more fireworks to it. And it did show in the first round, they were and then Estrada got rocked at the end of the round. And after that, the fight became like a chess match between those two until the 10th round. And then Estrada just pretty much tore into him. He tore him into the 11th. He dropped him in the 11th. And then the 12th just pretty much had him ready to go. Um, So like I said, it was a good fight, but I was expecting more, but I understand why there wasn't more because they both respected each other's power. But yeah, I was very pleased with the fight, and it was a good fight. It was definitely a good fight, and definitely look forward to seeing more of Estrada. Now the main event, um, yeah, the main event. Yeah. Now this is the one thing. I know what Aram was trying to do in China, trying to build superstars, try to build in other countries, especially this one who's a gold medalist, multiple gold medalist. With that being said, it's still fun to me that you see a novice, who's fighting in the main event for 6 rounds against another novice who has no notoriety whatsoever. But yeah, that fight was well, I wouldn't say it's interesting. Now, the one thing about Zoe that I see that yeah, he's fast. He has fast hands, and very little else. He doesn't have a lot of power. His defense is absolutely atrocious. And now, if they're trying to rush him along, they're gonna rush him along to a defeat. But if that is yes, oh, he's an amateur. Oh, he only has 2 fights. No. Yeah, you look at Rigo. Look at Rigo. He's had, what, 11, 12 fights right now. And pretty much that. Now, that is an amateur who's a polished pro. And Rigo showed that in his very earliest fights. Zoe, not so much. He hasn't shown anything that I would consider what we call a benefit to having anything near a pro game. And to real, the guy that he beat probably could have beaten because that dude was landing a lot of punches on him. Like I said, Zoe, like I said, seems to have has a chin. But if Bob was smart, he would just continue to milk Zoe and try and not and keep him far away from not damn a contender. Probably keep him away from a journeyman or a fringe contender, because Zoe as is right now doesn't have it. He has a chin and he has some hand speed, but that's all he has. Not having power. He has no defense. Any anybody with a pop will flatten him or give him a horrific beating. He's like, and it could be like I said, it could be because he's down with Freddie Roach, who I don't think is the right trainer for him, so to speak. Because I mean, well, to be honest, the fight was entertaining, but like I said, there's nothing in there. Promise or any premise of him actually being, made panning out. Like Zoe is probably the type that he probably will get upset by a journeyman if they keep bringing in these Mexican journeymen, and he will get upset sooner or later. I know they said they'll try to rush him to a title. No, yes, I know he's 32, but he's not. He's not going anywhere. I mean, unless they match him up with some, weak titleist, which in this case is really none of them. None, all the titleists in that division can actually beat him. So, but yeah, that's my thought. I mean, the fight was interesting, but like really, it was just pointless, and it was just show the fact that Zoe, as a multiple gold gold medalist, was really had a hard time taking care, of a fellow novice fighter who doesn't even have, who has none of the notoriety that he has. You know, overall, like I said, the HBO card was good. Wasn't great, it wasn't bad. It was good. It was, because at least the fights were entertaining, but really only the two fights were good. Didn't have any real drama or anything like that, but they were good fights to watch. Which now brings to the Showtime card, which I just finished watching. The opener was Keith Thurman versus Chavez. Now I've never seen Chavez before, other than he has like an 80% something KO rate. Most of the people from Argentina, they all have that insane KO record. So I was like, okay, this could be interesting. And that fight was interesting. It got really, especially in the first 3 or 4 rounds, the shots they were throwing at each other and landing were making me cringe because they were really powerful shots. And then I think Keith got his nose broke. So I think after that, after those initial rounds, the middle rounds were pretty much them settling into a groove. And I think this is where some of Keith's technical ability, at least the lack of it, is, it showed. Although he also showed a chin, like if he, because there was times where he, pretty much he was, even though he wasn't throwing shots, he was just throwing one punch at a time, and not much else. So it's like not really using not really using a jab, and it was just like pretty much keeping Chavez in the fight. Who was actually doing work with that left hook. He was working off the left hook. He was working a jab and off the left hook, and he was like he was doing. But I think that body shot that happened, I think it was the ninth, that body shot knockdown, I think took all the wind out of his sails. And then Keith, Kill Instinct showed it and finished him on the ropes. So yeah, it was a good gut check for Keith, and my hat's off to him. And now he holds one of the interim titles. He holds the interim welterweight title, I believe. Which means, of course, if Broner gives up the belt, he gets stayed at the full champion. Don't ask me how that shit works. I already talked about the belts and boxing situation, how they all operate earlier. I'm not gonna get into that same thing again. But my hat's off to him. And the next fight was more of a wild card than any other. And then all the other fights, all the other fights that I watched today. Well, not Figueroa so much because I saw him when he knocked out Miguel Cotto's is his second cousin or nephew or whatever in the first round. I saw him and I know the kid had power. Um, and I know Arakawa was just someone I had never heard of him. He had never fought. He only fought once in North America before. So I didn't know what to expect. If anything, I thought Figueroa would score a KO. Maybe in the first round or 2 rounds. Excuse me, as I'm about to say, what the fuck? That is what I was repeating over and over again as I watched this fight play out. Like I have never seen a fight like this. Like it, it yeah, like I literally, like, I went through like 3 beers because I was just at first I thought it was like, okay, yeah, Asian guys, doing work, and then after that he gets rocked and he's coming back and you know punching, not really fit because he wasn't really, he had no steam in his punches, and then it just got to the point where Figueroa was just literally throwing the kitchen sink at him, get him on nearly on the verge of being KO'd, and then he'd come back and flurry, keep him on the ropes and flurry him with his punches. And then it was getting to the point where Figueroa was hitting him so much that he made hurt both his hands. And then he caught a headbutt and then he was bleeding from his face. And then Arakawa was just getting lumped up. Eyes were just all swollen. He's Asian, so his eyes were just like this, swollen shut almost. Like the fight probably should have been the fight should have been stopped probably by 10, even then, probably even a little earlier than that, because Arakawa at that point had just taken way too much punishment, and I couldn't. And he was still. And the thing is, he wasn't like he was reeling around the ring just taking punishment. He was mounting in the fence all the time. He kept on mounting the fence, like he kept on trying to land that overhand left over and over again, and kept him figure on the ropes and kept on hitting him. And it was just like there's no words to really describe how ridiculously violent this fight was. I mean, the fight was one-sided on the card as it should have been. I mean, but score-wise, the scores itself, because it was pretty much one-sided. Do this fight injustice. This fight is a fight of the year candidate. Now, it would be fight of the year had Eric had actually managed to score a KO, stop him. That would have probably replaced my current choice of Bradley and Provodnikov as fight of the year. But this was just one fight. It was one fight that if anyone's going to score KO, it was going to be Figueroa, and he didn't get it. And the fight was just unbelievably. It was just wow. Cause I was clapping. I was like I couldn't believe what I see. Now Figueroa, I know they were talking about, does he work on his defense? And Figueroa was like, when I need it, I'll use it. Well, he might want after this fight. Well, most likely he's probably gonna go into surgery because I guess his hands is all busted up. He should probably go work on his defense now because I mean that's the type of test that I mean, granted he's a young guy, and he should bounce back from this. I mean, he should bounce back from his injuries. There's no question about that. But a heavier puncher than Arcar would have put him to sleep. Would have put him to sleep, and I hope that he knows that was the case. Um, as far as Arakawa is good, Arakawa is concerned, he took too much. He took way too much. I mean, I can't even say he'll recover from it because I just don't think he'll ever be 100% again. I mean, it was an unbelievable display of heart and guts and fighting spirit, which I know is really big. Um, but his corner and the ref, Lawrence Cole. Lawrence Cole really isn't shit as a ref. I've never been a huge fan of him. I mean, I was either that or Clinton should have really stepped in because it was getting to the point where I was thinking like, I mean, I already know this probably gonna be piss and blood, both of them, but I'm thinking he might pick up a brain bleed because like the shot, like the final pass, like they both threw over 900 punches in that fight. And I think Figueroa, I think landed like through 450 power punches. I'm about to look at that, but all I know is I saw a very ridiculously high connect for the amount of punches that they threw, that especially with Figueroa threw on him. And yeah, there's just no way I can. I mean, I see Erica actually being the same. Like, I hope he's okay, and I hope they made him do that interview, and it's like fuck all the interview. Just get him to a hospital. They need severe medical attention. Like, they need to check, make sure he's not bleeding in his brain. He's not going to collapse. You know. Um, but yeah, it was an amazing fight. Fight I had no expectations on. Turned out to be probably one of the most violent fights I've ever seen. Like, Yeah, I seen a lot of fights. I watch a lot of fights in a week. Every year I watch a lot of fights, and I've never seen a fight of that nature, like play out like it did. That one I can't wait to get the download because it's definitely one that's going in my collection. Real talk. So it brings us to our main event. Um, Andre Berto versus Jesus Soto Karass. Um, before the fight, did the interview with Andre, and he looked like really like I don't know who it is. Either his mind was addled or something was wrong. He was talking really soft, like he wasn't like his head wasn't right. And I thought that was kind of odd considering how he usually is before a fight. Um, and then the fight played out, and Berto went back to doing the shoulder roll, and but at least wasn't facing the Southie doing that. And he still, for some reason, still managed to get tagged with that overhand right, and he was in trouble in the first round. And then, of course, Sotokuras, kept on hitting him some, lit him up some more. And then the third round, he messes up his shoulder. With Berto's always ripping something. So he's ripping arms, he's ripping his biceps. He's always injuring something. However, he disciplined that I did thought it was admirable. He showed heart because he was fighting back. Like he couldn't throw his right hand completely, and he did throw it. It'd be short uppercuts, and he was working off his left hand. And in doing so, and at this point, I think Soto Karass could have really gotten rid of him earlier, but they didn't seem to realize that Berto was fighting with one arm. I was like, I mean, you could throw a shot to his arm. As bad as it sounds, throw it. Make sure force him to stop it. Because Berto was getting messed up, and it was even funny too. Berto showed heart as he was taking punch. He was actually fighting back. He was actually catching Soto Karass. I think he even scored a knockdown, and he scored a knockdown in 11, which Soto Karass thought was a low blow, and he got up and just absolutely punished him. The ending came. It was Berto was pretty much went all out, and his D has never been the strongest, and he got a perfect left hook, and he just collapsed. Like he got up, his knees locked, and the ref was right in stopping it at that point. It was like, why you get beat up for 35 minutes? Why let it go on for another minute more? For Jesus Lacrosse, like it's probably it's his career best victory, and it'll most likely lead him to other things. Now, probably not a Floyd fight because Floyd, because usually in the past, anyone who's actually beaten Andre Berto has gone on to face Floyd. I don't see that happening. I don't see Floyd facing Soto Karass after Canelo. If it did, then I'll just be then I would just no words. But I'm happy that Soto Karass actually now is taking his career completely, and he got himself a great victory and going to big things. Berto, however, is I think I think he should just done because I was like, if he has trouble with Soto Karass in any way with his gifts, then he should really call it. And he got lumped up early. He was showing damage early. He showed little stamina issues here and there. Didn't really use the shoulder roll too much. Didn't just he basically I saw basically just the same fighter, just no real adjustments. Getting hit with the same punch over and over again. Like another fight where he just took another pounding, and it's just like, when's it gonna stop? He's lost 3 of his last 4 fights, and all of them losses were brutal losses. And Zavik probably would have been a loss if Zavik's face could have actually held up from those punches. Um, but yeah, Andre, I mean, he looked like his body's betraying him, and like his recovery powers, his punch tolerance still all seem to be going. He's still a little fast or whatever, but it doesn't help. Being fast doesn't really help when you're injuring stuff left and right. So, I mean, for him, what's it? HBO will still throw money at him because they'll throw another $1 million, $2 million payday at him, and against some name opponent at 147, and he can always make a living that way. But as a serious contender, or even going back to even regaining a title, I just don't see it with him anymore. he's just. I mean, it's clear that the losses that he's took and a couple of the wars he's got into have just and are starting to take its toll. He's just slow. He's muscle bound. He gets hurt easily. His tolerance is not what it used to be. So, well, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, it's just sad to see someone like that, and they're not even 30 years old yet. But anyway, so those are my thoughts on the fights today. Now I'm probably gonna go back to my forums that I'm on, the Kali Sound Circuit. Of course, my Twitter at Bigga Pat, and then Eastside Boxing and Sure Dog. And go talk about these fights some more, and hopefully come across the download, especially that Arca Figueroa fight. That's the fight you need. That's the fight that deserves a fight that download and be put in a collection. Real talk. So yep. Until next time, I will talk to you. Peace.